What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the bar. And today we're going to be recapping and discussing My Hero Academia Vigilantes Chapter 77. If you're new to the channel, I talk about anime and more specifically My Hero Academia Vigilantes, and pretty much I come up with theories and talk about my favorite shows. So for today's video, there will be spoilers in general for My Hero Academia and My Hero Academia Vigilantes, the mangas. So if you're not caught up, I suggest you catch up before watching my review. You can read Vigilantes for free when it comes out at viz.com, or if you're me, on their mobile app. But then come on back, because this chapter is setting up the climax for the series. So let's get started. So the chapter itself was told in 3 parts, with the first and focus of the chapter going to the Vigilantes. We have the training that begun in the last chapter continuing further, and the new issue is that Koichi is having trouble hitting people deliberately with his new move, the Shooty-Go Kablam. We find out that subconsciously, he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and it's taking away from his training. But at the same time, he's just, subconsciously not wanting to have a lethal move. Soga notices this flaw pretty quickly, and he realizes that having Koichi learn to harness this quirk as a projectile any further is a bit of a misnomer. It's a little bit of a lost cause. He knows that Koichi has control over his quirk. He knows that he has the ability. It'll just come down to the moment that he confronts Popstep to see if he will act. Understanding this situational flaw, Soga has Koichi work on his martial arts and his endurance. Now, I see this training montage almost like Soga trying to get Koichi back into hero shape, but at the same time, look at Soga. He's planning this entire mission. He's studying Koichi, his flaws, his weaknesses. He's formulating a strategy all around them. And I guess now is a better time than ever to talk about Soga, because I am really impressed with his character's development. Every time that we see him, he's either studying or writing something down. He's actively operating Knuckle Duster's board, and I feel like whatever Knuckle Duster told Soga absolutely just changed his life. Also, if you could tell, Rapt and Moyu are becoming pretty close friends with Koichi, but the one thing that kinda just bugs me is the fact that Rapt and Moyu just kind of record everything that Koichi is doing. And he's not wearing a mask. I know in one way this video could work as an ex machina to help them in the future, proving their innocence. But as Murphy's Law states, anything that can go wrong will. And out of nowhere, that video could instantly become an instrument of their destruction. Personally, I don't think it's the latter. They all seem very devoted to saving Popstep, and they've all taken turns helping Koichi with his training. Between that and doing recon on the area of Pop's attack, we get to see Soga become a real leader here. He's stressing himself out the entire time because this is kind of his moment too. It's a really interesting aspect to know that Knuckle Duster trains Soga to a degree. Now we get to look at Soga in a whole new light. Look at this point in this chapter where Soga is closely analyzing every single aesthetic of Queen Popstep's attack. He's trying to find more and more about that smile of hers. He says there's just more to it, because the average person, as Moyu demonstrates, says that it looks like somebody that's just playing an intense prank. But to Soga, that face looks like somebody who's suffering, somebody who might be so banged up in the head that they don't outright understand what's right and what's wrong. And Koichi, who's listening on, resolves that speaking to her is probably gonna be the best way to kind of get her back. He reminisces that every time Pop has been extremely mad, he would just spend some time with her and then everything would kind of just be cool. And I kind of agree with the Naruhata boys here and say that Koichi kind of saying that was a little bit creepy and stalkerish, but look, I get it, that's Koichi's personality. But dude, she's brainwashed. Getting her back is probably going to be a little bit more complicated than that. I hope at least if it's a talk no jutsu moment, it's an epic one. Their part of the story wraps up with Moyu telling Soga to take a nap before he begins his planning. And as Moyu sits down and takes Soga's place in the chair, Moyu says something pretty profound. Considering the situation, helping people is pretty fun. Soga, in the typical bad boy anime fashion, kind of tells him to take it more seriously, and Moyu says, yeah, you're probably right, and goes back to work. So at the end of our first little vignette, I think that the thing that makes me the most unnerved is the fate of Rapt, Soga, and Moyu. Granted, Soga was trained by Knuckle Duster, but the other two, if they play a part in this operation, it could be a sincere possibility that they get hurt. I don't want to see them get in trouble with the cops either, so I really hope that Soga's plan works out and the boys make it out okay. Cause to me, that sounded like a little bit of a death flag. Doing hero work because it's fun is pretty much one of the main ideals of why Stain would kill you. Also, like I've stated in a prior video, these guys were just victims of circumstance. They were just discriminated against because of what their quirks made them look like. They were given the opportunity to be a hero one time, and they seized it. We then flash over to a high-rise apartment. In that high-rise apartment is Popstep, and she's not doing very well. I think the bees are actually acting like voices inside of her head, and they're actually torturing her physically and mentally to keep her on mode. Also, if you look at the ground, you'll see that there's a little bit of blood here, but if you look at this panel, you'll see that there's a lot of bit of blood here. Something is seriously wrong with Popstep, and I don't know if it's something along the lines of her body rejecting the queen bee to a degree, but it might be possible that Koichi and Talk No Jutsu are on the plate. But from the panels that we get, we see that she's seriously sick on top of being possessed or brainwashed or whatever they're calling it. So now they have to get the bees out of her head just to keep her alive, probably. Also, this does show us that Soga's intuition about Popstep was absolutely right. The third and final part to our chapter revolves around the next morning, before Operation Popstep. It turns out that the police have upped their patrols in Naruhata, starting a team dedicated to taking down Popstep. In their attempt to up patrols, they put out a listing for freelance heroes to come and patrol on behalf of the police. Amongst those heroes is the in-disguise villain number 6. He's partnered up with a non-ranked hero known as Compass Kid. And if there's one thing I could tell you about Compass Kid, because you still should just read this chapter regardless, it's that they gave you just enough information to be sympathetic for the guy if he died. So my guess is he's probably gonna die. And also, having number 6 throw an explosive pun at the end of the chapter was pretty funny. I love it when villains make like westernized puns that kind of foreshadow an incident coming. But as soon as I read this part of the chapter and was just kind of thinking about this in general, the thing that really had me confused was what number 6's true motives were. I mean, the idea just became a real head scratcher for me. Does number 6 know about the Vigilantes coming the same day as Pop's explosive appearance? Because if he does know about the Vigilantes showing up, that could potentially mean one of the Naruhata boys is a traitor. But if 6 doesn't, well, that means 1, the Vigilantes have the element of surprise, and 2, his main goal could possibly be taking down Popstep to solidify himself as a hero by taking down the infamous Naruhata terrorist. Which also leads me to believe that what if the true reason of 6's creation is that he's supposed to be a hero plant, taking down heroic society as a villain from the inside? But as we wrap up the video, there's one thing I have to harp on because I really feel that this is just more than just a fight and done. This fight is not going to be resolved once Popstep is saved. The whole situation with number 6 could get a lot of people in trouble if they don't figure out how to deal with it properly. I mean, number 6 has an identity that he's been using for the past 4 years, and he's acquired a hero license. So for all intents and purposes, the hero licensing program has been pretty bullshit up until now. So when the Vigilantes show up a few hours later during Popstep's explosive performance, number 6 is going to be trusted more than a Vigilante, especially if that Vigilante is the one that's been on the scene of pretty much every crime in the past 3 years in Naruhata. I mean, think about it. All that number 6 would essentially have to do is say that he's a hero here to apprehend the Naruhata Vigilante. And if Koichi ends up in a situation where he's 1v2 against number 6 and Compass Kid, what if number 6 just turns around and ices Compass Kid right in front of Koichi and pins Koichi for it? Granted, right now in My Hero Academia, there's some wild shit about to occur, and I think that a jailbreak is brewing. But I really don't want to digress back into the theory that I had that Koichi could possibly go to jail and end up in Tartarus. At this point in the story, I think it's more likely for My Hero Academia's heroic society structure to come crumbling down and Deku needing to learn from somebody like Koichi, rather than Koichi appearing in jail during a jailbreak. Either way, I feel like Horikoshi has a handful of characters in My Hero Academia Vigilantes that he could take advantage of and bring over into My Hero Academia. From there, he could enhance and augment the story unlike any other manga that we've seen. Personally, I'm not one for spin-off mangas. I know Dr. Stone has an amazing one featuring Byakuya, but I just don't really mess with spin-offs. But if you know me, this is one that I've seriously been on week to week, or bi-weekly to bi-weekly. And if you know anybody that loves My Hero Academia or reads My Hero Academia, you should definitely throw them in the direction of Vigilantes, because if anything, it's almost as good as My Hero Academia. And I know a lot of you have reached out to me in the past saying that in your country it's not available for you to read on Viz. I've heard a lot of the times that it's easy to mess with your location and download it on your phone, so maybe give that a try. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today's video. I've kind of unloaded a bunch of theories that I hope got your brain working. I am still working on that Green Lantern video. It turned out to be almost like an 18-minute long video, so it's a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it's gonna be awesome. But really, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and if anybody has any family affected by the coronavirus like I do, I feel you, I hear you, I love you. Please take care. Peace.